Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from round 6 of this year's FIDE Candidates Tournament. It's Teimour Radjabov versus Rapport, and as you guys have requested, you would like to see some more footage before the actual game. Here is a video a subscriber sent me a couple of days ago, but I thought I'd leave it if I'm going to show a game between Radjabov and Rapport. It is a video of the two of them arriving in a taxi. I think it's from the chess.com's YouTube channel. Not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure it is. So here's only a small fragment of it, so we can enjoy the game a little bit better. So there you see a taxi nicely arriving, and here Rapport and Radjabov are coming out of the taxi. So this is incredible footage. Definitely chess history right there. This will be remembered for a long time, and also Ding is in there, so only improves the video. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And also here is a nice photo of the two of them before the actual game. Okay, 2 moves on the board, but let's enjoy that for a second as well. As usual, if you guys can spot anything out of the ordinary in the photos, do mention it. There are so many of you, so I'm pretty sure we could figure something out. I mean, there's always something wrong with the photos. We just have to figure out what it is. So if you manage to spot it, do share so everyone else can enjoy it as well. Now, getting back to the game, Radjabov has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to e4. Rapport replies with c5, the Sicilian defense, knight f3, e6, and now d4. Striking in the center, captures, and knight to c6, going for the Taimanov variation of the Sicilian. Knight to c3, we have a6, and here Radjabov captures. We have knight captures, b captures, and queen to d3. Another very rare line, but Rapport not very impressed. He just strikes in the center with the d5. If you can do that in the Sicilian, you should always do that. Queen to g3, hindering the development of the dark square bishop, but again, Rapport not very impressed. He just pushes h5, wants to kick away the queen with h4, so Radjabov stops this, and now pawn to d4, chasing away the knight. Knight back to b1. You could also play knight to d1. It was tried in a game at Dinchenko versus Movsesian, and he won a game with knight to d1, but here knight to b1 is played, knight to f6, and now pawn to e5. Now, you have to move the knight somewhere. The knight is either coming to e4 or to g4, and also knight to g4 was played. Andreikin lost a game to Velimir Ivic last year in the FIDE World Cup with knight to g4, so here knight to e4 by Rapport, and now queen to f3 as the queen is attacked, and we enter a very well-known game between none other than Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Dejan Nepomniachtchi that was played last year in the Grand Chess Tour Croatia. It was a rapid event, and the game ended in a draw. But in that game, of course, it went a little bit different, but the game continues in the exact same way. So queen to d5, like Nepo played in Croatia, bishop to d3, threatening to pick up the knight, and bishop to b4 check. We have king to f1, not worrying about castling, and now pawn to f5. We have to defend our knight. E captures on f6 with check, and now knight captures, offering a queen trade. And in that game that we mentioned, MVL versus Nepomniachtchi, c3 was played, but here Radjabov goes for bishop to g6 with check, and it seems like a move you would play in a bullet game. So it's a move you play without thinking, because you prevent black from castling, and the black king now has to find a square. But where do you go? If you go to e7, then bishop g5 at some point could be very strong. So here Rapport plays king to d7, and this just looks really weird. And not only is your bishop completely blocked in by your pawns, but now your king is basically a pawn also blocking your light square bishop. So this is, it definitely doesn't look like something that should be possible. However, now in the era of engines, everything is possible. So here we have bishop to g5. Again, c3 does seem to be one way to go about it, like MVL tried against Nepo. Then we trade queens, captures, and after d captures on c3, knight captures, you get this position. Let's say knight d5, you offer a trade of knights, and it's a fine position for both players. White will always be a little bit better, as white has 3 pawn islands, black has 4 pawn islands, so maybe it's gonna be a little bit easier for white to put pressure on those pawns. But okay, here Radjabov plays bishop g5, and now rook to f8. defending the knight, also aligning the rook nicely with the queen. So c3 attacking the bishop, and now bishop back to d6, and c captures on d4. Now the queen trade is no longer on the table because you have to recapture the pawn. So queen captures on d4, and now queen to c3, again offering a queen trade. And while you could trade it like this, you don't want to develop a white's knight for free, so instead the Rapport does it like this: queen d1 check, only move queen e1, and queen captures on e1 with check, king captures, and rook to b8. So much better than just developing Radjabov's knight for free. Also, you're putting pressure on the b2 pawn, and I hope none of you are considering pawn to b3. If pawn to b3, bishop e5, and white resigns, so never do that. So here, knight to d2, you have to give up the b2 pawn, and Rapport grabs it. Rook captures on b2, now knight c4, attacks the rook and the bishop, of course. Bishop to b4, this comes with check, king goes back to f1, and now knight to g4. And now look at this incredible pressure Rapport is having on this f2 pawn, but even though it seems like Rapport is the one who's attacking, Rapport is basically finding a unique set of moves that keep the game going for him. It's just an incredible position. So here f3, chasing away the knight, also not allowing anything to capture on f2. Rook to f2 with check, king to g1, and now bishop to c5, threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries. But here Radjabov just plays f captures on g4. It is the only good move for white, and well, you don't really see any other moves. You can't move the king, so nasty discoveries are coming. You can only minimize the damage. So f captures on g4, and now how do you win back the material? The problem is if you play something like rook c2 check, thinking you're going to win back the knight, knight e3, and the knight is defended. If you attack it, we're going to defend it again, rook to h3, and that's a problem. If h captures, rook g3, the knight is nicely defended, you've got nothing here. So the only way to do it is rook to f4. You block the bishop's defense of the e3 square, and now knight to e3, we're going to play bishop captures on e3 with check, king h2, and now rook captures on g4, attacking the bishop twice, but also if the bishop moves, we attack the bishop on g6. So bishop captures on e3, rook captures on g6, and now rook h to d1 with check, king to c7, and rook a to b1. So this is the position we have on the board. It is equal material regarding pieces, but Rapport is up 2 pawns. So does this mean that black is just outright winning? Not so fast, because Radjabov controls so many important squares here, and it's very, very difficult for Rapport to activate this light square bishop. For the moment, this bishop is a pawn, make no mistake, and unless bishop b7, c5 happens at some point, it's not very likely that this bishop will come alive. And again, the bishops are of opposite color, so it's basically like one player is up a piece if your bishop is doing nothing. So bishop to b7, trying to activate it somehow, but now bishop to c5, blocking the c5 pawn, also putting pressure on the rook. Rook to e8, now with ideas of starting to push the past e pawn, but now bishop to d6 with check. King c8, only move for black that doesn't lose, and now bishop e5, preventing the e pawn from being pushed. And now you are controlling all of the squares here. You control this, you control this, you control this, you control this with the bishop, this. So the black king has no squares, and if a check happens, that will be checkmate. Let's say you try something like bishop here, this is checkmate, so you can't do that. So here, rook to g4. Rapport goes after the h4 pawn, it's undefended, and it does come with check, but this move allows Radjabov to seize the moment and play rook to f1, which is not winning in itself, but you have to thread very carefully here, and c5 is a move you have to play. You have to absolutely open up this diagonal, but Rapport says, but I could capture on h4, it does come with check, so there's always time to play c5, so I'm gonna do that. Rook captures on h4, and now king to g1, and here we have rook to e4, going after the bishop. And now the problem is the position is completely winning for Radjabov. However, he only has about, I believe, 3.5 or maybe 4 minutes on the clock, and he needs to make 2 more moves to reach time control. So it's incredibly important to make the right move, but if you don't find it, then you will squander your winning chances. So feel free to pause the video here. Don't use more than 4 minutes. While I give you a couple of seconds, have at it. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this, pretty brilliant idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is bishop back to h2. This is the only winning move, and now that you see it, of course you believe it and you understand why this is so. This was not played in the game. In the game, Radjabov just went for rook to f7 and he traded the bishops, which is a crime against chess. You do not trade this bishop for this bishop. This bishop is a pawn, this bishop is a dragon. That this move was played strictly due to time trouble, but also because Radjabov did not feel he had winning chances. Because Radjabov is down 3 pawns, so unless he's winning, he's definitely losing this. But the point is, after bishop to h2, there is no defense against rook to f7 now. That's the point. If you try e5 to block the bishop's diagonal, then again we just bring the rook to f7, and how are you defending your bishop? You can't. If rook to a8, we just play rook to a7 and we capture the bishop on the next move. There's no defending this. You can't move the king. There's nothing you can play here. And on the other hand, after bishop to h2, let's say you played this to prevent rook to f7. Now you allow rook f8 check, which is kind of worse. Rook f8 check, you have to move away from the bishop, as this is covered by the bishop, our dark square bishop, of course. So you have to play king to d7, and you get rook captures here with checkmate. So that's the problem. But Radjabov missed this. He played rook to f7, and now he gives up his dragon bishop for the pawn bishop, and that's just not a good trade. So rook captures here, and here after rook to b5, upon reaching time control, so this is move 40, he was in this position that Radjabov and Rapport agreed to a draw, as now there really is nothing more to be done here. The position is an objective draw, and of course they both know it now. They have time to see it, and that's it. So really a tough break for Radjabov, who misses this brilliant win. The problem is, even though Rapport is up 3 pawns, the 2 white rooks are too active. Of course, you're not going to trade. You're going to play something like check, king b8. You're going to capture this pawn. Now you're attacking this pawn. You're attacking this pawn, and slowly but surely you will win them back. For example, rook to b7. We're going to avoid the rook trade, and after rook to a7, it seems like you've defended everything. The problem is the rooks are still too active. Or even king to a7, if you want to keep the rook a little bit more active, we're going to play rook to d1, get the rook to d6, and let's say e5, rook to d6, we go after the a6 pawn. There's no defending it. You're going to play something like a5 or move the king. We're going to give this check, king b8, rook captures on a5. So the pawns are slowly going down one by one. Now black is only up 1 pawn, which with the 2 very active white rooks is of course a draw. So yeah, tough break for Radjabov. Really a nice one after rook e4. So Rapport gave him the chance by going for this pawn grab. If it works, of course, he's winning. But if it doesn't, it seems that Radjabov has either a win or plenty of forced draws. But here, yeah, just bishop to h2, the only move that wins the game. You can play bishop to d6. It seems like it's the same, it keeps the same diagonal. But the problem is you allow rook to d8 to come with tempo. On h2, nothing can touch the bishop. And here you just don't have it. If a bishop h2 now you can play rook e to d4, and that's it. If rook to f7, we can just block this rook here, and now you're just up too many pawns. You're winning the game. So really a once in a lifetime opportunity for Radjabov, but he misses it, and a nicely fought draw. But that's the problem. You don't get additional time until you reach move 40. So that's something that always you have to keep in mind. But yeah, you guys mentioned that you would like to see the standings more often, so not a problem. Here are the standings. I even enjoy showing the standings very much. So if you guys want the standings every video, I would be happy to do it. So here are the standings. Yanni Pomnici still leading the tournament after that brilliant victory with 4.5 points. Fabiano Caruana 4 points. Hikaru Nakamura and Richard Rapport with 3 points. With 2.5 points, Radjabov, Dingliren, and Young Krzysztof Duda. And in last place for the moment with 2 points, Alireza Firuza. So we'll see how the tournament continues. This is, I believe, so far everyone is incredibly impressed with the games, with the fighting spirit of the players. It's not like we have like 3 boring games and 4 draws altogether in one day, with maybe 1 fighting draw. Like everything is just flying everywhere. Pieces are being demolished, and so many winning chances that are not utilized. So it's just an incredible tournament. So yeah, once again, really hope you guys enjoyed it, and some footage and some photos and the standings. So there's that. I would like to Thank Derek Bokelheide, Go Fabi, and I would like to thank Dermot and Fergus from David, Vika Sony, Ryan Urban, and Hans Anderson for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. You can see that Ryan Urban is a true chess fan, as by the amount donated, he really knows his chess. But yeah, as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the candidates until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.